Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like life was against you? Like no matter how hard you try, something always goes wrong? Maybe it's the job, the relationship, your health. Maybe you've told yourself, I just can't catch a break. I've been there. And I'm here to tell you something that's changed my entire life. Something so simple, it almost sounds ridiculous. But it's powerful. It's life-altering. And if you say it, believe it, live it, it will rewire your destiny. It's this. Everything always works out for me. You might be thinking, that's too easy. But let me ask you, what's the alternative? To keep expecting the worst? To keep bracing for pain, living in fear and letting your past dictate your future? Not anymore. Today, you flip the switch. Today, you become the kind of person who doesn't just survive, you expect miracles. You walk in certainty. You live with power. And by the end of this talk, you'll know exactly why this one phrase, said daily, live fully, has the potential to transform your mindset, your energy, and your entire life. So stay with me, because after today, you'll never again say, I hope it works out. You'll say, it always does. Let me tell you something. Most people never realize your words are not just sound. They are signals. They are commands to your mind, your body, your spirit, and even to the universe. The moment you say, everything always works out for me, you're not just whispering a wish. You're sending out a powerful instruction. You're aligning your thoughts, your emotions, and your energy with a higher frequency, one that draws in solutions, opportunities, and breakthroughs. But here's the truth. Most people speak their fears. They speak their limitations. They repeat the stories of pain, failure, and doubt like a mantra, and then they wonder why their life doesn't change. What you speak, you begin to believe. What you believe, you begin to feel. What you feel, you begin to act on. And what you act on becomes your results. It all starts with language. If your words are filled with fear, life reflects fear. If your words are filled with doubt, your decisions will shrink. But the moment you start declaring something powerful, everything always works out for me, you flip the script, you interrupt the old patterns and start building new ones, your nervous system begins to respond. Your focus sharpens, your energy shifts, and suddenly the world starts showing up differently. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying, but what if I say it and everything isn't working out? That's exactly when you need to say it the most. Because this isn't about denying reality, it's about choosing a new one. You're not reacting to what is, you're creating what will be. And that creation begins the moment you open your mouth and speak truth into your future. I've watched people transform their lives, not with complicated strategies, not with years of therapy, but by simply changing the way they talk to themselves every day. Think about it. Your entire life, someone's been talking to you. Teachers, parents, friends, media. And much of that programming wasn't empowering. It told you to be careful, to play small, to expect things to fall apart. But what happens when you become the voice of power in your life? What happens when the first thing you say in the morning is, everything always works out for me? You stop being a victim of circumstance. You become the architect of your reality. Because here's the deal. Life will always throw challenges at you. You can't control that, but you can control your language. And the moment your words become stronger than your environment begins to bend to your words. That's not magic. That's focus. That's energy. That's alignment. You speak life or you speak limitation. Every time you open your mouth, you're setting a direction for your mind. So set it toward faith, toward certainty, toward expansion. Because everything always works out for me, uncertainty isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. And just like a muscle, if you don't train it, it gets weak. If you only have confidence when things are going your way, that's not certainty. That's convenience. Real certainty shows up when life doesn't go as planned, when the deal falls through, when the call doesn't come, when the plan breaks down. That's when you find out what you're really made of. And let me tell you, If you want to live a life where everything always works out for you, you don't get there by accident. You get there by training your mind, your heart, and your emotional state to be stronger than your circumstances. Every time you say everything always works out for me, you're reinforcing that muscle. You're sending a message to your nervous system. I'm not reacting to the chaos. I'm choosing my center. I decide how I feel. I decide how I respond. I decide what this means. And when you live in that level of emotional fitness, the game changes. You stop being knocked around by life. You stop shrinking when things get uncertain. You lean in, you grow, you rise. Most people live in hesitation. They wait for proof before they believe. They wait for the outcome before they feel good. That's backwards. That's how you stay stuck. The people who shift their lives are the ones who create certainty first. They decide, I don't care what's happening around me. I know it's working for me. Even when I can't see it, it's moving. Even when it looks like a mess, it's part of the miracle. But here's the truth. Certainty doesn't come from repeating a phrase once. It comes from living it, breathing it, practicing it daily. You have to condition it. That's why you don't just say everything always works out for me when life feels easy. You say it when you're in the waiting. You say it when the fear shows up. You say it when your back's against the wall and nothing makes sense. Because that's when it matters most. That's when the seed gets planted. That's when strength gets built. And I promise you, when you start to live from that place, everything begins to shift. Your decisions get bolder. Your energy gets clearer. You stop chasing and start attracting. Because certainty is magnetic. People feel it. Life responds to it. And opportunities that once seemed out of reach start finding you. Because you've become the kind of person who expects things to work out. And not just expect, it's your standard. It's who you are. This isn't about blind hope. It's about choosing a powerful identity every single day. Because when you condition certainty, when you flex that belief like a muscle, you don't just hope it's going to work out. You know it will. Let's get something straight. Life doesn't give you what you wish for. It gives you what you expect. It gives you what you tolerate. And the problem is, too many people are living far beneath what they deserve, not because they aren't capable, but because their standards are too low. They keep hoping life will get better, but they haven't raised the bar on what they're willing to accept. Saying everything always works out for me is not about crossing your fingers and waiting. It's about setting a new standard for how you live, how you think, and how you react when things go sideways. Most people are reactive. They let the outside world dictate how they feel inside. If things are going well, they feel good. If things fall apart, they spiral. But the ones who shift their lives, those who transform their reality, they decide in advance what they're available for. And that decision becomes their filter. It becomes the lens they see life through. When you adopt the belief that everything always works out for you, you start to filter your experiences differently. You stop seeing setbacks as proof that things are going wrong and start seeing them as part of the process that's going right. That's what happens when you raise your standard. You stop entertaining worry. You stop feeding fear. You stop giving energy to anything that doesn't serve your vision. It's not that problems disappear. It's that your internal foundation becomes so strong that the problems don't shake you anymore. You look at them and go, this is temporary. This part of it, this too will work out, because it always does. I've seen it over and over again. People start speaking differently, showing up differently, expecting more from life, and suddenly doors open. Not because the world changed first, but because they did. They stopped living like victims of circumstance and started living like creators of reality. They made a decision. I will no longer tolerate fear as my default setting. I will no longer wait for life to prove something to me. I will expect the best, and I will train my mind until that becomes my norm. Expectation is powerful. When you raise it, the world rises to meet you. But it has to come from within. That's why this isn't just a phrase. It's a pattern interrupt. It's a new identity. When you say everything always works out for me, you're declaring, I no longer settle. I no longer play small. I live with the expectation that life is unfolding in my favor, even when I can't see how. And when that becomes your standard, that becomes your life. Because life rises to meet the version of you who expects nothing less than alignment. Your mind wasn't designed to just reflect the world, it was built to shape it. Most people live like thermometers. They just measure the temperature of life. If things are stressful, they feel stressed. If things are uncertain, they feel anxious. If people around them are negative, they absorb it like a sponge. But the people who live with power, the people who shift reality, they become thermostats. They don't measure the environment, they set it. They walk into the room and bring peace. They face the storm and carry calm. They don't wait for life to be perfect to feel grounded. They decide who they are no matter what's happening around them. And that's the power behind this simple phrase, everything always works out for me. When you say that, you're not reporting on what's happening. You're setting the internal temperature. You're deciding your emotional home. And once you decide, everything around you begins to adjust because energy is contagious. People feel it when you're grounded. They feel it when you're steady. Life feels it too. Doors open, resources show up, not because you forced anything, but because your state was elevated enough to see opportunity where others only saw obstacles. When you live as a thermostat, you're not controlled by circumstances. You become the one who influences them. Most people are always trying to manage their external world, their schedule, their money, other people's opinions. But the real shift happens when you start managing your state. When you lock in certainty, when you anchor into the belief that things are working out, even in the middle of chaos, your energy becomes untouchable. That's when you stop reacting and start creating. And look, I'm not saying ignore the facts. I'm saying don't let the facts drown out your faith. Reality is not just what's happening, it's how you're interpreting it. Two people can face the same challenge. One spirals, the other rises. What's the difference? Identity, expectation, state. The thermostat isn't waiting for the room to warm up. It decides this is the temperature and holds it until everything else aligns. That's what this phrase trains you to do. It's not just motivational, it's directional. Every time you say everything always works out for me, you're telling your nervous system to stay centered. You're telling your emotions to stay grounded. You're telling your subconscious mind to look for alignment, for growth, for meaning. You stop chasing certainty outside of you and start building it inside. Because once you take control of your inner world, the outer world has no choice but to shift in response. There's a force inside you that's more powerful than any strategy, more powerful than any plan. It's called faith. And I'm not talking about religious faith. I'm talking about certainty in the unseen. That inner knowing, that grounded belief that even when you can't see the way is still being made. That's what fuels unstoppable people, not because they have all the answers, but because they've decided, I don't need the full blueprint. I just need to know it's already working out. Most people want to wait for all the lights to turn green before they leave the driveway. They want guarantees. They want certainty from the outside. But life doesn't work that way. You're not always going to have clarity. You're not always going to have control. But you can have trust. You can have a mindset that says, this may not make sense yet, but I know it's leading somewhere powerful. That's what this phrase is really about. Everything always works out for me. It's not about ignoring the unknown. It's about stepping into it with confidence. You see, faith isn't passive. It's active. It's not sitting on the sidelines hoping things improve. It's showing up again and again with energy and intention, even when you don't see results yet. That's what makes the difference. The people who create real breakthroughs, the ones who live at another level, they're not waiting to feel certain. They choose certainty. They create it through movement, through action, through decision. You've got to stop needing life to explain everything before you feel peace. Peace doesn't come from knowing the outcome. It comes from knowing who you are. It comes from that unshakable belief that no matter what's happening, it's happening for you. You may not like it in the moment. You may not understand it, but you trust it. You believe there's meaning in it. You trust that on the other side of the resistance is the version of you you've been waiting to meet. I've seen it again and again. People spend years stuck because they're waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect timing. But those who rise don't wait for certainty, they bring it. And when you start affirming that everything always works out for you, what you're really doing is saying, I've decided to trust the process. I've decided to release the how. I've decided to act anyway. That's the kind of energy that breaks limitations. That's the kind of mindset that doesn't just survive uncertainty. It thrives in it. And that's when momentum kicks in. That's when life starts opening up, not because everything's perfect, but because you're finally aligned. You're not operating from fear, you're moving from faith. And that shift, that's where transformation lives. Because when you trust that everything always works out for you, you give yourself permission to move forward without fear. Repetition is the mother of mastery. If you want to change your life, it's not about doing something once, it's about doing it again and again until it's no longer what you do, it's who you are. You become what you rehearse, not what you occasionally remember. And when you say, everything always works out for me, daily, you're not just repeating a phrase, you're rewiring your brain, your beliefs, and your emotional patterns. You're teaching your nervous system a new baseline, one of peace, trust, and certainty. Now, let's be real. At first, it might feel strange. You might say it and not believe it. You might feel resistance. That's normal. Your mind is used to rehearsing the opposite. It's used to running the script of doubt, worry, and what-if scenarios. And if you've been repeating that for years, guess what? That's your internal default. That's your mental habit. And habits don't change through motivation. They change through repetition. That's why this practice matters. Saying it once when you're feeling good isn't enough. You've got to say it when it's uncomfortable, when your back's against the wall, when everything in your environment says the opposite. That's where the rewiring happens. That's where identity begins to shift. Because you're not affirming it to escape your reality, you're affirming it to transform it. You're reminding yourself of the truth that's greater than your current challenge. Every time you repeat, everything always works out for me, you're doing more than just using words, you're training your focus, you're interrupting the old mental loop, you're planting a new seed, and the more you plant that seed, the stronger the roots become, until one day, without even trying, that thought becomes your automatic response. That calm becomes your new normal. That faith becomes your foundation, not just in theory, but in practice. Think about how many times a day you reinforce what you don't want. How many times you say things like, I'm so unlucky. This always happens to me. Things never go my way. That's repetition too. And if you've repeated that for years, don't be surprised if life keeps proving you right, because the mind loves consistency. It seeks to confirm what you believe. So when you flip the script, when you decide to rehearse something empowering, you're not just shifting your mood, you're creating a new reality. This is how champions are made. Not through a single breakthrough moment, but through daily conditioning, through choosing every single day to align with the belief that life is not against you, it's working for you. It's always been working for you, even when you couldn't see it, even when it felt messy. Every twist, every delay, every closed door, part of the setup, not the setback. Because the more you repeat this truth, the more it becomes you. The more it becomes you, the more it shapes your world.